Welcome back to the financial cookie, where we, crunch the numbers and bite into the latest tech trends.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this deep dive. It's a topic that's been making headlines and kind of sending shivers down the spines of investors.
Oh, it certainly has been a turbulent time for the aviation industry, for sure.
You said it. Just imagine this. You're on a Delta flight, coming in for a landing at Toronto's Pearson International Airport. Everything seems normal, routine, and
Yeah.
then suddenly, boom, the plane flips over.
Yeah, a truly terrifying scenario, and one that thankfully didn't result in any fatalities.
Absolutely. But 18 people were injured, including a child.
Mm,
And, I mean, it's obviously a relief that everyone survived, but it makes you wonder, what went wrong.
it does, yeah. It also raises questions about the state of the aviation industry as a whole. Like, did you know that Delta's stock took a 1.8% dip right after the news of the crash broke?
Now, that's interesting. Is that just like a knee-jerk reaction from investors, or is there something more at play here?
Well, it's worth noting that this particular crash comes just weeks after a tragic mid-air collision involving an American Airlines plane and an Army helicopter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, sadly, there were no survivors in that incident.
So two major incidents within a short period of time. That's bound to make investors nervous.
Exactly, exactly. And if we kind of dig a little deeper, we find another kind of layer to this whole story. Remember those mass layoffs at the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, a few weeks back?
Hundreds of employees.
Hundreds of employees, yeah. Many of them, new hires, were let go.
Wow. Hundreds. I vaguely remember hearing about that. What kind of roles were affected?
So the firings, they weren't actually aimed at air traffic controllers, but rather support staff like maintenance mechanics, safety assistants, and environmental specialists, essentially folks who work behind the scenes to, keep the system running smoothly.
So not the people directly guiding planes, but those responsible for ensuring the planes themselves are safe. And I guess the infrastructure is up to par?
Precisely. And this raises some important questions. Could these firings, particularly of like the maintenance personnel, potentially impact the safety and reliability of aircraft?
It's certainly a thought that makes you pause, especially considering the timing. These firings occurred just weeks after that deadly American Airlines crash, right?
Yes.
Right when concerns about aviation safety were starting to surface.
Absolutely. And there's another factor we need to consider: the state of the aviation industry itself. It's no secret that the industry has been facing some major challenges.
Like what?
Well, for one, there's a significant shortage of air traffic controllers, which puts immense pressure on the existing workforce, right? This can lead to longer shifts, increased stress, and potentially an increased risk of errors.
That's a bit unsettling. And on top of that, I've read about the aging air traffic control systems in the U.S. Some of those systems are decades old.
You're absolutely right. In fact, a Government Accountability Office, or GAO, report highlighted that 37% of these systems are It's certainly a lot to unpack. And to add another layer of complexity, we have to consider the political context. The Trump administration, with Elon Musk leading the Department of Government Efficiency, has been pushing for downsizing the government.
Right. I remember hearing about that. So some argue these FAA firings are simply part of this larger effort to reduce government spending.
Exactly. But critics are pushing back, claiming these firings are politically motivated and put public safety at risk. They argue that essential roles are being cut, leaving the system vulnerable.
And here's where it gets really interesting. SpaceX, Musk's own company, which ironically is also regulated by the FAA, has had its own incidents that have disrupted air travel.
Oh, yeah. It's a fascinating and complex web of connections, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. So we have crashes, firings, a stressed industry, and a political backdrop. How can we make sense of all this? Is there a connection between these events? Are we witnessing a potential crisis in aviation safety?
That's the million-dollar question, and one we'll be exploring in detail. But before we delve deeper, I want to bring your attention back to that Delta stock dip. Remember, it wasn't just Delta that experienced a decline. American Airlines stock has also been down about 8% since their collision. This suggests that there's a broader concern among investors about aviation safety as a whole.
So it's not just a reaction to a single incident, but a growing unease about the industry's overall stability and safety.
Exactly. And it raises another question. How do these incidents and the surrounding controversy impact public perception? Are people becoming more apprehensive about flying?
That's a great question. I know I'd be a little more nervous after hearing all this.
Understandable. Think about it. You read headlines about clear signs of strain in the aviation system, and then you see a plane flipped over on the tarmac. It's bound to make you think twice.
Okay, so uh, we painted a pretty sobering picture so far. Let's shift gears a bit and focus on the human element in all of this. Behind all the technology and regulations, there are real people working tirelessly to keep air travel safe. Let's talk about the folks who maintain these aircraft. I imagine it's a high-pressure job with little room for error.
You're absolutely right. These are highly skilled professionals, but they often work in challenging conditions. Think about the complexity of hangar maintenance, multiple shifts, handovers between teams, and, constant pressure to keep planes in service.
And let's not forget the impact of shift work on these individuals. Fatigue, disrupted sleep, and the potential for stress-induced errors are all serious concerns.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to understand the human factors that contribute to aviation safety. It's not just about nuts and bolts and technical procedures. It's about the people performing those tasks and the systems in place to support them.
So what kind of systems are in place to catch potential errors before they lead to, serious incidents?
Well, we kind of have a two-pronged approach. On the one hand, we have reactive systems, like investigations by the National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB, and reports filed through the Aviation Safety Reporting System, or ASRS. These come into play after an incident has occurred to determine the cause and prevent similar events in the future.
So those are like post-incident analyses to learn from mistakes.
Precisely. But we also have proactive systems, like human factor audits and simulations that aim to identify potential problems before they become disasters.
That sounds promising. Can you give us an example of how these proactive systems work?
Sure. Human factor audits involve experts observing and analyzing how maintenance tasks are performed, looking for potential vulnerabilities in procedures or communication. They might also, review maintenance logs and interview personnel to gain a deeper understanding of the work environment and identify areas for improvement.
So it's a comprehensive approach to safety, considering not just the technical aspects, but also the human element.
Exactly. And simulations can be incredibly valuable tools for training maintenance personnel and testing their responses to various scenarios. Imagine a simulated engine failure or a complex repair task under time pressure. These simulations allow individuals to practice their skills and decision-making in a safe environment, potentially preventing errors in the real world.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
So you have these systems designed to catch errors, both before and after they occur. But are these systems enough?
That's a crucial question, and one we'll delve into further. Remember, as we discuss these, complex issues, it's crucial to remember that this isn't just about statistics and regulations. It's about people. The pilots, the passengers, the maintenance crews, the air traffic controllers, they're all part of this intricate web we call aviation.